It was one of those mornings that felt routine for everyone else but was life-changing for one man, Michael Walker. Dressed in nothing more than a plaid shirt, old jeans, and scuffed sneakers, steps out of his car. He doesn't look like much, just another average Joe in the parking lot of the Blue Ridge precinct in North Carolina. But appearances, as they say, can be deceiving. Behind those ordinary clothes stood the newly appointed police chief, ready to face a department cloaked in whispers of misconduct. But here's the twist. No one knows who he is yet. Hey, where are you tuning in from? Drop your location in the comments. We'd love to know how far our message is reaching. Don't forget to hit the like button. It helps us get stories like this out to the world. Now back to the story. Michael wasn't here to make a grand entrance or soak up applause. Michael had a plan, a bold one. He wanted to see the true face of this department. He wanted the unfiltered truth, the raw reality of what was really happening behind those precinct walls. And what better way to do that than to blend in like a nobody? No formal badge, no uniform, no announcement. Just an everyday man stepping into the lion's den. The scene was casual. Officers laughing, chatting, and buzzing in and out of the precinct parking lot. Most didn't even notice him walk by. He was invisible. Until, hey, you. The voice sliced through the air like a knife. It was Officer Tom Cruise, a tall, smug-looking man with a voice full of condescension and an audience ready to be entertained. Michael froze mid-step, his heart pounding but his face calm. This was the moment he'd prepared for, though even he couldn't predict what was about to unfold. Tom Cruise sauntered up to him, sneering. "This isn't a shelter. Get out of here, buddy. We don't need people like you hanging around." The other officers laughed, their eyes gleaming with amusement. Michael opened his mouth to respond, but before he could utter a word, Tom Cruise got closer, too close, and then, in one disgusting, humiliating motion, he spit. The warm saliva dripped down Richard's cheek. Time seemed to stop. Laughter erupted around him, louder now, crueler. Tom Cruise smirked triumphantly. What would you have done in that moment? Would you explode in rage? Would you walk away? Or would you do what Michael did next, which would silence an entire room and turn the tables in a way no one saw coming? The humiliation of that moment didn't faze Richard, not outwardly, at least. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a handkerchief, and calmly wiped his face. He didn't retaliate. He didn't lash out. Instead, he looked Tom Cruise straight in the eye and asked, "Is this how you treat everyone who walks through those doors?" Tom Cruise scoffed, still unaware of the storm brewing beneath Richard's calm exterior. "Only the ones who don't belong here," he replied smugly. Michael simply nodded and walked away, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than any argument could have. He didn't need to prove anything, yet. What Tom Cruise and the rest of the precinct didn't realize was that this nobody they had just humiliated was moments away from walking into the briefing room, standing at the podium, and revealing his true identity. The intercom crackled. "All personnel, report to the briefing room." Officers shuffled in, carrying coffee mugs, laughing over inside jokes, and leaning casually against the walls. Tom Cruise, still riding the high of his earlier performance, smirked as he leaned against the back wall. The room settled as Captain Harris stepped up. "All right, listen up. Today's an important day. We're welcoming a new leader, someone who's bringing a fresh vision to this department. Please join me in welcoming Chief Michael Walker." The room froze. And then, like a scene out of a movie, Michael stepped forward, his posture commanding, his eyes scanning the room. The weight of his presence was undeniable. Tom Cruise's smirk vanished. His face went pale, his posture stiff. He didn't just recognize Richard. He realized what was about to happen. Michael took his place at the podium, his calm demeanor masking the fury simmering beneath the surface. His voice was steady, but the room could feel the tension as he began to speak. "This morning, I came in plain clothes because I wanted to see this department through an unfiltered lens," he said, his words measured. "What I witnessed was eye-opening. You could hear a pin drop in that room." Officers glanced at each other, their expressions ranging from uneasy to downright terrified. Tom Cruise, meanwhile, looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "I saw behavior that is not just unprofessional, but unacceptable," Michael continued, his gaze sweeping the room. Let me make one thing clear. The culture of this department changes today, and it starts with accountability. Turning to Tom Cruise, he said, "Officer Tom Cruise, your behavior this morning was a disgrace. Not just to me, but to this badge and to this community." Tom Cruise stammered, "Chief, I didn't." "Save it," Michael interrupted sharply. "Your actions spoke louder than any excuse you could offer. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending an investigation." The room gasped. Tom Cruise's face turned crimson, his bravado crumbling. But Michael wasn't done. "To everyone else in this room," he said, his voice rising, "let this be a lesson. Respect isn't optional. It's the foundation of what we do. Without it, we fail. Not just each other, but the people we swore to serve and protect." It was a turning point for the precinct, a moment that marked the end of an era of complacency and the beginning of real change. Over the next few weeks, the precinct transformed. Officers who once laughed at Tom Cruise's antics began to rethink their actions. Some came forward to admit their mistakes, while others quietly left, unable to adapt to the new standard Michael was setting. Michael didn't just enforce change, he lived it. He walked the halls, greeted officers by name, and attended community events. He wasn't just a leader, he was a symbol of what law enforcement could and should be. One day, at a community event, a young boy approached him and asked, "Are you really the chief?" "I am," Michael replied with a smile. "My dad says the police don't care about us," the boy said softly. Michael crouched down and looked him in the eye. "I can't change the past," he said gently, "but I promise we're working to do better. And if you ever need help, you come find me, okay?" By the end of his first year, the precinct wasn't perfect, but it was undeniably different. And Michael knew that while the road ahead would be long, every step forward was worth the fight. What do you think of Chief Nelson's story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support helps us share stories that matter.